I wasn't going to ask this, and it may be rude, so you don't have to answer if you don't want. I'll put this either to Ms. Crowley or Ms. Kaplan if either of you wants to field it. You are both very experienced trial attorneys. You've been up against some of the best and brightest opposing counsel in all sorts of different trials. How is President Trump's lawyering? Is he well represented in court?
I'm going to let Crowley answer that, but I will say that what you heard just now in that tape of Alina Habba leaving the court and kind of yelling at the reporters, that's what we heard every single day, multiple times during this trial, but yelling at the judge. And it was unbelievably nerve-wracking each time it happened, and it happened multiple times every day.
Yeah. Thanks for handing that one over to me. I think that she had a hard job, and you could definitely see a difference between her sort of style when he was in the courtroom and when he was not there. She was much more disciplined and, frankly, acted more like a lawyer when he wasn't there. When he was, I mean, you could hear him telling her when to object and muttering things and, you know, loudly being frustrated with her. And I think she felt like she had to say things to the judge and to us and sort of put on a performance like you just saw in front of the TV cameras.
E. Jean, in terms of the what you've just been through, I mean, to hear a lawyer as experienced as Ravi Kaplan say it was nerve-wracking to be in that room sometimes because of the way this was conducted. I have to ask you, you know, President Trump has kept your name out of his mouth since being told he has to pay $83 million to you for what he's done in the past. But over the weekend, he did start posting links online to articles that attacked you and denied your claims. Again, he seems to be pushing it already in terms of whether or not he is going to go back to calling you a liar and denying that he did what he did. If it came to it, if your lawyers told you that there was another case and that you should go back and get more money out of him and sue him again, would you do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It wasn't too much. It wasn't too much wear and tear on you? I mean, the guts factor here is real in terms of how much you put yourself out there. A lot of big, strong people have been wouldn't put themselves through what you've gone through.
Rachel, many people, as you know, have been through much worse than I went through at that trial. People suffered more difficult things than I've ever been through in my life. And I am more than willing to do it again, because we achieved so much in a 7-day trial. We did what people thought was impossible. We beat Donald Trump.
Let me ask you about a way that you have talked about this, E. Jean. You have talked about the fact that this was not just you being, passively victimized, but you fought. That it was a fight, and that's the term that you used. And everybody gets to choose their own terms to describe it as something like this happening to them. But you chose that term, and it seems like it's important to your sense of self and to your own sense of agency and knowing who you are and making decisions about what to do next. What you just did 25 years after the assault was a different kind of fight, going at him at the height of his power and the height of his celebrity. And I wondered if you could just talk about that self-conception and why it's important to you to know for yourself that you fought, but also so that the world knows that you both did fight and that you will fight.
Well, we're fighting not really, Rachel, for me. It's now about fighting for all women, and we're also fighting, and we salute the women and men who've been assaulted and who did not survive. We are doing this for women around the country who have been knocked down repeatedly. And so it's really not about me anymore. We have moved beyond me. And as you say, the fight now is really to take back our future. This is a man who stacked the Supreme Court, took away women's rights over their own bodies. We would like to be a part of turning our eyes to the future and taking back our rights.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money that you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No? Oh, all right, okay.
That's a joke.
Although if me fishing in France could do something for women's rights, I would take the hit. You know, I would obviously take one for the team. All right, let me as if you need persuasion in that regard. Let me finish with a final question. And again, this is both for you, Sean, and for you, Robbie, and you guys can divide up responsibility here. But there are multiple cases here involving Trump that are coming up. Obviously, most eyes are on the federal January 6th case, having been up against Trump in the courtroom. I'm wondering if you two have any advice in terms of what it's like to go up against him and his legal team in terms of the way that he approaches his defense. That's part of it. But I also want to know if this big, what everybody's expecting, potentially to be a very large judgment against him and his company, changed anything about the way that you approached the ask to the jury, the way that you presented evidence, the way that you're planning on making sure this money is in fact extracted from Trump's wallet. I mean, how much do all of these different cases interact with each other, if at all, and can various lawyers involved in these various cases learn from each other's experience?
So the short answer to do the cases all interact with each other is absolutely all the time. To give you just one good example, in our case, we played at the end of our case not only the deposition that I took of Donald Trump in this case, but we played the deposition that the New York Attorney General took in their case, because in that deposition, Trump is bragging about how his brand alone is worth more than $10 billion. He has $400 million cash on hand. And the reason that was so relevant is in assessing how much money to award for punitive damages, the jury is not only allowed to, but supposed to think of the wealth of the defendant. So when Sean said, give enough to E. Jean to make him stop, they had to think what enough would be for Donald Trump. So the cases in kinds of predictable ways and unpredictable ways are kind of talking to each other all the time.
On the first question, you know, I think that one thing that I maybe wasn't prepared for coming into this trial is that when Donald Trump is stripped of, you know, all of the press and not at a rally and there's no TV cameras and he sort of has a small group of supporters around him, he's not that scary. And he also can be controlled. You know, I mean, his antics in the courtroom, we've talked about them. But at the end of the day, he did kind of follow the rules. Robbie cross-examined him. He was in the witness chair and he only got to answer 3 questions, I think. And he pretty much stayed within the bounds. I think when you have a strong judge like Judge Kaplan who enforces the rules of his courtroom and you have real lawyers, you really can get him to behave, sort of. And when he is stripped of all of the rallies and the truth socials, he's just a guy. I think E. Jean called him the emperor with no clothes. That's not my quote, but he definitely is. He's not the guy that you see on TV. He's just a guy, sometimes acting like a petulant toddler, but just a guy.
An American bound by the law, just as every American is bound by the law. Writer E. Jean Carroll, attorney Robbie Kaplan, attorney Sean Crowley, you guys have made history a couple of times now.
Right.
And you also have meant a lot and continue to mean a lot. You have been lighting the way, I think, for a lot of people in terms of both moral clarity and strategic acumen. And I really, really want to thank each of you for making the time to come talk to us. And I wish you all safety and rest. Thank you for being here.
Rachel.